Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sara Gonzales. Here with me, Pat Gray from Pat Gray Unleashed, actually from Glenn Beck Radio this week.
Mm-hmm.
I am Pat Gray Unleashed this week.
Right.
And you are Glenn Beck.
Indeed. Sort of.
And then also joined by special guest Chad Robichaux, who is the founder of Mighty Oaks Foundation, right, and Jeremy Stalnecker, who is the executive director of Mighty Oaks Foundation. Thank you for your maiden voyage on the show.
Yes, excited about it.
And thank you for returning, Chad.
Great to be back.
Chad, you're kind of a jack of all trades.
Kind of, yeah.
You dabble in everything, and you're really good at everything you dabble in. So it's interesting.
Not true, but
no.
I like to think that, but no. My wife would disagree.
All right, Pat, what's the top story for you?
I think the steady march of socialism in this country and how accepted it is by Americans now.
See, I told you were Glenn Beck. Talking about socialism. All right, Chad.
I'd say the abortion debate, or the lack of the actual debate, but abortion.
Okay, and Jeremy.
Memorial Day is coming up, and that's a very, very important day for us to celebrate and understand.
Yes. Oh, I'm glad that you're bringing this up, because it is really important to recognize what it's about and what it is not about.
Right.
A lot to get into, but first we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. So if you were looking, maybe to refi, might I suggest you check out American Financing. So it's an interesting path here that American Financing took with the Blaze. They reached out to Glenn before the 2008 crash, and they said, we want to do business with you. And Glenn being Glenn, right? He's like, I don't believe any of you guys. I don't think you're going to last. You guys are doing business the wrong way. All of you are the same. Come back after the crash happens. And if you're still okay, I'll think about it. And so they came back. Good thing they were very persistent. They came back and they said, we're still here and we're still doing strong. We're fine because we do business the right way. Our people are not commission-based, so they're not in it to get the kickbacks from the financial institutions. They're in it to actually help your families and get the best, get the best deal for you, get the best arrangement for you, not put you in a situation where you're going to be in trouble in 5 or 10 years. So if you are looking to refinance, you need a loan, go to AmericanFinancing.net, or you can call 800-906-2440. All right, Pat, you said the steady march towards socialism.
Yeah, it's kind of scary because according to a new Gallup poll, 43% of Americans are okay with socialism for our country. They would be fine, I guess, if we switched from capitalism to socialism. So we're down to a 51 to 43 split now, when it used to be about 75-25.
Wow.
And
how long ago, do you know?
It's been 50 to 60 years.
Okay.
But over that time, the erosion of...
Not that long.
No, but the attitudes have changed so much in the United States. And I think it's because the left has been really effective in making socialism about equality.
Mm-hmm.
And
compassion.
Compassion. Yeah. It has nothing to do with compassion. The government doling money out to people after they've stolen it from other people is not compassion. And it's not charity. And you see charity's effects best when you see capitalism at work, just like we did the other day with the guy at the commencement who was the commencement speaker, and he paid off all the student loans of everybody in that graduating class. That's charity. Those are the fruits of capitalism.
Right.
But that's what the government should be doing, Pat.
No, that's not what the government should be doing.
When the government does it, it's not compassion. It's control.
Right.
It's control, because it comes in a certain way, and the way the government decides, and that's imposed on everyone. You don't have a say-so at that point.
And we're expected to believe that taxes are charity. Taxes, that's force. Force isn't.
Taxation is theft.
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
I've heard that.
So because they've positioned capitalism as evil and all about the 1%, and only the 1% prosper in capitalism, and they've positioned socialism as this kind and loving and equitable way of life, I think a lot of Americans have been duped by that, and it reflects in the polls, which is scary because we got a lot of socialists running for office right now in the Democrat Party.
Yeah, it's true. And I will say it is interesting, and I think that it adds to your point, Pat, that Americans are latching on to this message that makes them feel warm and fuzzy inside. Oh, socialism makes me feel good. But in that poll, if you actually look at the numbers of Americans who appreciated a free market, the majority of Americans still thought that the free market was good. They did not want government-run health care. They did not want all of these things, these facets of socialism.
That lead to socialism.
Right.
Yeah.
But they like socialism. So that indicates to me that they just have no idea what socialism is, which is even scarier.
It is.
To
scary.
Pat's point that we've got all of these socialist candidates and they think that they know what they're signing up for. Very clearly they do not. Jeremy.
The compassion argument is a strange one, and I get it. I think that is the argument. But compassion has nothing to do with taking away my ability to help someone else.
Right.
And that's really the argument that's being made. If anything, when the government takes over these programs, you go back 60 or 70 years, it was the communities that were caring for people. It was individuals in the communities that were caring for people. It was churches. And as the government has taken more and more of the resources available, so much of that has stopped. And so now we're dependent on the government because of charity, which is not compassion.
Yeah, Chad, I mean, socialism has gone really well for Venezuela.
Yeah.
So we should definitely try.
We should give it a try, and then 10 years later we come back and have this good discussion again. And
Right.
I really hope that we don't ever have to do that. And I mean, it's kind of, if you really just sit back and look at it, we're a capitalist country, and last year we had a record. We were just strongest economically that we ever have been under the administration. And last year also, ironically, is the year that we had the most, we were record-breaking giving and charitable giving from our country. And I think that's a reflection of people that are being part of a successful economy, expressing their compassion and giving around the world.
Which, by the way, Americans lead that every year.
Yeah.
Every year, Americans are by far and away the most charitable giving people on earth, and last year it was well over $300 billion. So that's what capitalism breeds, is charity.
Philanthropy, yeah.
And what's another thing that was frightening in this Gallup poll is that over half of college students believe that it's okay to sometimes or always shout down speakers they disagree with when they're speaking. Which is another, to me, it's another aspect of socialism, because you start into the oppression aspect of it, and you shut down the other side, and you silence voices, because that's what it takes to control the people. And so there's a couple of really frightening trends, and especially when you've got so many people on the Democrat side. And the other thing about the survey was that 41% of people overall like socialism, 57% of Democrats.
Oh, that's not encouraging.
Not at all.
Because I would have liked to think that this whole radical socialist wing that's kind of breeding, in the Democratic Party is a minority.
You'd like to think
that doesn't sound to be the case.
It doesn't look like it, though. Unless, like we were saying, unless they don't understand what socialism is. Some of those people might think it means socializing. Because when we've asked people on trivia and other places, that's what they say a lot of times. Socializing with people.
I love social media.
Social media, Facebook. I like Facebook.
Sadly, I do think it's a trendy, cool word, right? And people get behind it and hitch the wagon to it, not even knowing where it's headed.
Right.
It's so intellectually dishonest, though, to say that equality is the root of socialism or the heart of socialism. But if you say something I don't like, it's okay for me to shout that down and to stop you. It's not socialism, not really.
That's a great point. Well, and also, we will all be equal in the sense that we'll all be equally poor, and equally worse off.
Equally voiceless and equally have no power.
Right.
That all this could be happening at the same time we're watching Venezuela collapse in front of our eyes.
Unbelievable.
And getting such a great example of what socialism breeds. It's pretty amazing.
And you know what? I will say I do blame the media for a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
they're hiding.
Yes, Americans should do their homework, but when they're consuming media who is not explaining to them the full story, that's what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen.
And not just CNN, right? The social platforms.
Yes.
Twitter and taking people off their platforms.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. People who want to tell the truth about things.
Yeah.
All right, Chad, I want to switch to the abortion debate. What is not being discussed?
It's not really a debate, because there really is no debate happening. It's just two really strong sides. You got, where I would sit was just like an abolitionist, which believes all abortions, which is what happened in Alabama, in fact, by a female governor, by the way. And then, people like me are being told that because I don't have a uterus,
Right.
I have no opinion. I can play in female sports if I want to.
Well, we also
I don't have an opinion.
we obviously created these babies by ourselves as women. You guys had no doing in that, right?
It's such a weak cop out for an argument to say that, well, you don't have a uterus. It's just trying to silence and shut people down. And I have a very strong opinion on this, and I believe that in the right to life, I believe in life at conception, and I don't believe that any person has the ability to step into God-breathed life and destroy that life. And I think the majority of Americans agree with me.
Yeah. No, I do think that to your point, when you look at the statistics of how Americans feel about abortion, and you look at let's say late-term abortion. The majority of Americans think that is abhorrent. The majority of Americans do not want to see that taking place. I will say there are a lot of Americans who are more comfortable, I'll use the term more comfortable, with first trimester, things of that nature. But once you start getting to the radical late-term abortions, Americans are not comfortable with that at all.
It's over 80%.
Yeah. Yeah. However, I don't think any one of the 2020 presidential candidates on the Democrat side have come out against late-term abortions.
That's true.
None of them. Not one single one. Why is that? Are they tone deaf, Jeremy?
I don't know if they're tone deaf. I think they're pandering to what they believe is their base. They clearly don't understand what the rest of America believes, and they don't care. And I think the presidency of Donald Trump has really revealed that to us. If I had been told 3 or 4 months ago that there couldn't be an honest argument about this abortion issue, I would push back on that. Of course, we can have an honest, intellectually, right argument, but clearly that is not the case. It has nothing to do with truth. It has nothing to do with what's right. The fact that you can demonstrate life at some point and people would still say it needs to end, it's not an argument. It's what I believe, it's what I want. It's probably where this idea or this rise of socialism comes from. It's all about me. It's what I want, and you can't tell me no.
Yeah.
And I think that's all it is.
Pat, you want to weigh in?
All they do is scream at you, a woman's right to choose, and that's supposed to end the argument, I guess. Well, we've allowed women to choose for 46 years now, and it's cost us 62 million lives. So those are not good choices that are being made, and somebody's got to step in sometime and protect life.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't let a woman choose as to whether or not I can knife Chad right now. Is it okay if I knife Chad? It's my choice. No, I wouldn't do it myself, but I wouldn't stop you from knifing Chad. I mean, there's some just ridiculous arguments that are being made on behalf of the death cult, and that's what I think it is now. Because when you have no limits on abortion, that's just a pro-death cult.
There's a heartlessness behind it too. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of these social media posts would have this, partially formed fetus, and they're like people's comments were like, stomp on it, flush it down the toilet, like these just horrific comments. And
our culture is
who are these people like
terrible.
And, I mean, where their hearts lie. It actually shocked me, and I'm not easily shocked by stuff like that. I was shocked to see people's comments on this.
Well, and I mean, you have Alyssa Milano saying, stop calling it the heartbeat bill, call it the, the fetal pole cardiac activity bill.
Well, they don't want to they want to rename everything a convenient name for it, right?
Yeah.
It's the debate between whether it's a fetus and the definition of a fetus.
Right.
I don't care what the definition is. I don't care I personally don't even care what the law is. I mean, I'm respect the laws of the land, but I mean, for me, I still have an issue with it regardless of what it's named or you call it a fetus or a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, it's life.
Right.
And you can't debate that. It is.
Who knew the party of science all of a sudden is going to completely
not care less about science.
Yeah, completely deny science. All right, back in a minute.
You gotta get
amazing on abortion.
Before we jump back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, FreedomWorks. So, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, cancers, these are all obviously really terrible illnesses that plague a lot of Americans today. Now, thankfully, America's doctors and researchers are working around the clock to find cures for them all, but
What we need is price control, right?
No.
We need to control those prices. The government should control the prices.
that's the thing, is that that's not what we need.
What?
Yes, I'm telling you, Pat, because I don't know if you've noticed what goes on in other countries, but when that happens, it all kind of goes to crap. If, in case you haven't noticed, it causes like shortages of medications. You can't get access to them. Sometimes when government gets involved in, private businesses, the results aren't great.
You kill incentive, right? When you kill incentive, that's what you're
Yes,
telling me. That
a little bit.
That can't be true. I don't believe anything you're saying right now.
I was just talking to my neurosurgeon who's going to do surgery on my back, and I've just had these injections recently, 2 injections that have really kind of saved my life and help me get out of excruciating pain and just make it kind of normal pain. So he was saying, if you're in Canada or the UK or anywhere, those injections are not available. You just can't do them. They give you some pills and send you home because you can't get it done there.
Wow.
So that's what price control, that's what socialized medicine brings, is that you don't get that kind of service.
And we've got the HHS secretary right now, Secretary Azar, they're trying to go in that direction that Pat's talking about, where they're gonna have price control, and then there's gonna be nothing that we can do. There's a reason why people come into this country for healthcare, to get procedures done. So, if you want to stop them, and you all should, it's going to take every single person watching to stop this. Go to freedomworks.org/news and tell Azar and your elected officials to fix patients, not prices. That's bad. We don't want the price control. freedomworks.org/news. Go there and take action. All right, Jeremy, you said you want to talk about Memorial Day.
About Memorial Day. Memorial Day is coming up, and I think this is an often misunderstood holiday. It's one that we celebrate. We don't always know why.
White sales?
Yes, barbecues. Yeah, that's the reason. So I have nothing else to say. We can move on. Because that's it. That's the whole thing.
3-day weekend. Yeah.
And I think a lot of even the other things that we talk about, the freedoms that we enjoy as a country, the trend toward socialism, the abortion debate, all of these things, in a sense, come back to what it is exactly that we celebrate on Memorial Day. We celebrate the fact that young men and women are willing to go somewhere they've probably never been to fight a war they may not understand in defense of the freedoms that we enjoy as Americans. And, over the years, coming from a military background, we work in a military organization. This is not Veterans Day. This isn't when we thank those who have served, although that's fine. I'm not gonna
Does it make you feel uncomfortable?
It doesn't make me feel uncomfortable because people that thank us for service on Memorial Day don't understand.
Right.
And I'm not going to be upset at someone who says thank you for your service when they're simply
slap
trying to.
them when they say that.
And a lot of people do get upset.
No, he punches them. He goes straight to the punch, Pat.
What's crazy is in the veteran community there is some of that where people get really incensed about why would you, because my brothers died, and I try to educate certainly, and that's what this conversation would be about. But it's not about that. And I'm thankful for people that say thank you, but really it's about remembering that what makes America great is that there are people in our country willing to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves, willing to defend freedom abroad. What's the abortion debate about? Why does it matter in America? Because Americans have always stood up for those who can't stand up for themselves, stood up for those who can't defend themselves, and given a voice to others who don't have a voice on their own. So Memorial Day is a day I think that should be somber in the sense of remembering. It should be something that brings gratefulness and thankfulness to our hearts. And then something that we should have barbecues and get-togethers and enjoy ourselves, because that is exactly what those people, those young men and women, died to preserve, is the freedom to do those things. And that's the way we need to live on Memorial Day.
Yeah. Chad, do you think that it's been too commercialized, Memorial Day?
I mean, I definitely think that there's most of America, and I see these man in the street interviews, and they ask what Memorial Day is, and people can't even answer the question.
Yeah, well, because as you said, they think Veterans Day and Memorial Day is the same thing, I think.
And they don't even know if it's. Some people don't even know if it's related to the military.
Really?
And, I mean, it's.
Well, that's terrifying.
So for that, I think that's makes me sad and bothers me. However, I do think that people should celebrate. I don't think some people should feel bad about celebrating. I think it's a moment, like Jeremy said, where you kind of take a pause out from life and you reflect on those who have given us the lives and the abilities to be able to have a weekend and a barbecue and celebrate and enjoy family and an extra day off for the weekend. I think that's great, and I think people should.
Pat, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, is there anything we haven't commercialized too much?
Yeah, sure.
That's a great point.
Easter is now commercialized to the point where it's not. It's more about rabbits than it is, the resurrection of the Savior.
Right.
So
well, same with Christmas.
Same with Christmas.
I mean, you've got Santa Claus. I always feel like I need to give my son a sit down every Christmas because it becomes so much about the gifts and the toys.
Is it not about that?
Yeah, right. And
My
I'm
four
like,
kids say it's about that.
yeah, I'm like.
Yeah.
But do you really remember why we're doing this?
Yeah.
So
That's why
it's
this
hard.
is a really good reminder.
Yeah. And I feel like this is a great point for you guys to talk a little bit about your organization and what you guys do for veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go?
No, you're the founder and president, so I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, Mighty Oaks. I mean, first of all, the Blaze has been just incredible supporter, and Glenn personally to Mighty Oaks. And so, Mighty Oaks Foundation, we exist to do really two things. One is we do a resiliency program where we go to travel to bases around the world and speak about combat resiliency. I'm invited for 4 years now to speak at Marine Corps boot camp to the recruits and talk about resiliency, spiritual resiliency, combat readiness in order to prevent these statistics that we hear about, the 20 plus a day veteran suicides, the divorces, the rates of those being diagnosed with PTSD. And so to give them tools in advance to be able to be prepared for their service in the military. And we've spoken to over 100,000 active duty warriors at bases that we're invited to doing that. Our core program is the second half that we do, and that's our recovery programs. We call them our legacy programs. We have 4 ranches around the country in California, Texas, Virginia, and Ohio. And so military members who are in active duty or from the veteran community will come to these programs. And we have about 40 that will come at a time, and we have 30 of these programs per year. And they come free. We cover all the costs. We scholarship them in through the support of a Grateful Nation, including covering their travel. And we've had 2,600 graduates come through that program, many struggling with so many things, suicide attempts and things like that. And we've really been able to not only help them get well, but help them move forward and then be productive beyond their military service, whether it's back in the military because they're still in active duty or transitioning, to come back home and not just get well, but be contributors in their communities and in our nation.
That's so important and so necessary. What is the statistic? 22 per day? 22 veterans a day commit suicide?
Yeah. The number fluctuates. I think anecdotally, though, we would believe it's much higher than that.
Much higher than that?
Much higher than
They're
that.
reporting that.
Really?
Their reporting base is about 50%. So at 20, the last VA report in 2000.
You're saying over 40 a day?
We wouldn't know because the base that they polled was about 50% of reporting from the country. So it could be.
Wow.
There's no mandatory reporting, so
Right.
it's just what you get. On the other side, though, the active duty side, that's probably a more stable number, and we're told it's almost 4 active duty service members a day take their life.
Which the last reporting period was 1. So in the last
going the wrong
years,
direction.
It's went from 1 to 4.
Oh my goodness.
There's 1,100 programs in the DoD and VA since in the last 15 years. That number 22 that everyone talks about that you asked about, it was 16 15 years ago. And with 1,100 clinical programs in place, the number's getting worse. So we're big on pushing obviously faith-based solutions, faith-based program. As what Mighty Oaks is, we exist as a faith-based solution, and most of the faith-based programs out there have had tremendous success.
This is also a great reminder that the answer isn't always more government programs. It's privatized areas and industries and people who aren't just going to go through the red tape and their bureaucracies, and they're really going to make it about helping people.
We've done this long enough now that we have some studies behind us now, and some big studies, and one even on our program that demonstrate that non-clinical programs like ours have been more successful for the long term than clinical programs. So it's a proven truth.
Yeah, we just finished a 3-year independent doctoral study on our alumni, and it was incredible.
That's amazing. Well, you guys have done amazing work. All right, back in a minute.
We should tell people how to go if they want to.
All right, now that you guys have told us all of the valuable work that you're doing, where can everyone find you?
Well, one, any veteran, spouse, active duty member is interested in coming to the programs. Programs are totally free. We even cover travel to those programs, and you can get on mightyoaksprograms.org, programs with an S.org, and apply to come to the program. Someone will get right back to you, and we'll take care of you, help you get scheduled for one of about 30 dates at our legacy program. Bases, reach out to us. We speak at bases all over the world, and we don't charge for that, and we do resiliency events. This weekend, I'll I'll be at, this weekend I'll be in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, speaking for Memorial Day at the Assembly. So if you're in Oklahoma, come and hear me.
Awesome. Overtime starts next.